players that might be one and done coming here soon, though, let's talk free agency. Because I got a feeling we're going to see a whole lot of one-year contracts in one and done as we approach the CBA renegotiations and obviously a new CBA, which presumably there's going to be a whole lot more money on the table for these players to go and get in 2026. But Andrew, I'm interested from you as we await free agency to really kind of open up. So negotiations can kind of start with like qualifying offers and core players on Saturday, I believe, right?
Correct.
And so 11th. Yes, so this is kind of where free agency starts, but technically deals can't be signed until the beginning of next month. So, like, yes, it starts now. We should be hearing things and get a better idea for what the lay of the land is going to be. But ultimately, like, no contracts will physically be signed until a little bit later. We got a couple weeks until that point. But, Andrew, I'm interested from you as we approach the start of free agency, hot takes and what you think might go down in the wacky world of WNBA free agency.
Okay, I initially in our pre-show said that we were going to do one hot take, but you know me, I can never stay on a singular.
Let's just go. Let them rip.
This is why the column is 5 out and not one big thing. You know, like I can't pick. This is my indecisiveness. My first hot take: the Vegas Aces do not core Kelsey Plum, and the LA Sparks throw the bag at KP to entice her to come and be a centerpiece lead with that organization. And my rationale here is I wonder if she feels that it's time to go. If the Aces feel it's time to go. If there is a necessity to move or try something new. I think in letting her go, you free up a little bit of cap space and room to maneuver and retool. I think the issue with the Aces right now is that it feels like their core is so ingrained. It's got a little Golden State Warriors in it where like it can get stale. You know, like 4, 5, 6 years with the same core, like that can get stale if you don't appropriately move around role pieces to complement your core. And I don't think they've moved around role players well enough that the core feels like it is fundamentally different with different pieces on the team. Because at the end of the day, even the rotational players are the same.
Yeah.
You know, Kia Stokes has been there for a long time. Sid Colson, been there a long time. Their most recent addition was Tiff Hayes, like who already has some degree of background with that team. So like your 8, 9, 10 person rotation on the Aces has kind of been the same for 3-4 years now. And so I wonder if the decision here is like Chelsea Gray is getting older, you know, and you saw a noticeable step back in her game this year. Some of that's due to injury, but she's also in her mid-30s. Like that age is starting to catch, especially with a game like hers. The passing will always be there. But if you are the Aces and you really want to go all in, you're turning over 2 assistant coaches. You're turning over a general manager. Do you decide that there is one big move to make here to try and maximize the remainder of A'ja Wilson's window? Because ultimately the scout is out on you. Everybody knows who you are, what you're giving, what your players are giving. And the notion here is like, let A'ja get 30 and 15 and let's try and see if everybody else can beat us. And this year you saw that had its limitations, especially with Chelsea aging in the way that she has and dealing with the injury that she did. So Kelsey is liable to be cored here. I think rationally you core her. But this is hot takes.
Yeah.
And I feel that the Sparks are a really interesting match for them.
Yeah.
Paige will likely go first, even though I banged the drum a little bit this week on like, well, maybe give Olivia Miles at least a cursory look. But imagine a world now at pick 2 where you don't have to worry about a combo guard that can play the 1 or the 2 in the way that Paige can, because I think that was a huge component of why the Sparks needed her so bad is she's a do everything guard. You know, she very much is built in that Caitlin mold of like, she can be a point and be pass first, but she can shoot first. And she gives you that bit of everything. I think Olivia is more of a traditional point, even though her 3-point output has improved to where she can be a scorer. But I imagine a world here where your starting 5 is Olivia Miles, Kelsey Plum, Rickea Jackson, Hamby, and Cam Brink. It's a good ass starting 5.
Hey, with some solid players off the bench too, like in that way.
Ray Burrell, Azurá Stevens, and I think what matters more on to me is like the idea that team needs more vet presence than just than just Hamby in the starting five. You need one more like established star, I think, to like elevate that culture. What
Hamby and Plum seem cool. Like they seem like they were like they seem like out of all the fallout of the Aces and everything.
Out of all of them,
Hamby
went to Plum's wedding, right? I think that was like the one.
Yeah,
wasn't that like the canary in the coal mine of like?
I think so. Like that's nice. Can I also throw out in this hypothetical? From an Aces perspective, I think an interesting name to potentially take up that money to maybe switch up the scout in a way. Just throwing it out there, Emma Meesseman to Vegas to play alongside Asia Wilson. And
I think there's a lot of Aces fans that would take that trade
and go with the two bigs and kind of more match what we obviously saw that with New York this year and winning the championship. And we've now seen several years where that 4 spot and whoever's playing next to Asia it's just been a struggle, frankly. And that's because all the resources have been on the perimeter surrounding Asia Wilson. But Emma Meesseman can kind of do a little bit of everything that you might need next to Asia Wilson. So that is a name. I think the most likely suitor for her is obviously you have the connection with Connecticut and the new head coach being the national team head coach for her. And that connection is obviously very straightforward. But when it comes to you have facilities, you're a win now, like that to me checks a lot of boxes for a player coming over from Europe and wanting to win. I love that take. I'm intrigued by that. If that's the trade-off, there's worse trade-offs to be made if you're bringing in Emma Meesseman.
Well, and Meesseman instantly walks into the WNBA as a top 5 player in the league.
Man,
for those that haven't been familiar with her game that are just joining the W, in the last year or two, welcome. But also the thing that people don't know about Emma Meesseman is that she's the best player in Europe right now. You poll any WNBA player, they'll tell you Meesseman's the best player that is outside of the United States right now.
Yeah.
I've had coaches in the Euro League tell me that it is no longer Alina Yagapova. Emma Meesseman is the best player in the world outside of playing outside of the United States.
And has proven it here too in the past. So like she's played in the W for anyone that might be unfamiliar. She's played in the W before, has a ring here in the W with the Sky. Like it's like this is
Finals MVP that year too, I believe.
I think regardless, she's done it here, she's done it there. Like if you don't know Emma Meesseman, like if you see her name in free agency, understand that is quite possibly the biggest signing in all of free agency if she does make the choice to come over and sign with the team, which is a big if with Meesseman. 2019
Finals MVP, by the way. The other one too, the other hot take here as well, and I guess like we'll call this the third. Nneka Ogwumike cannot be cored this year. And I debated between this and like Brianna Jones who also cannot be cored, being like the most coveted free agent in the pool. And I still kind of feel that way to a degree. But the thing that I think is most fascinating is the idea that Nneka, they got a lot going on up there right now, And so what exactly is stopping Nneka from saying, you know what, I don't want to deal with this. Like, let me maximize the window for a singular year. And here is the hottest take of all.
Let's go.
What if you miss out on Satu Sabally and you're the Indiana Fever?
I don't hate it.
And you throw big old max money bag after you get Erica Wheeler off the books and go for El Presidente. That's the hottest one.
I don't hate it. I don't hate it. I think, I mean, that's not a hard one to try and think. I mean, I think if she's leaving, I think Golden State would be an opportunity because she can't receive the Supermax. So like you're throwing max money, but to your point, if you're not getting Satu, which honestly it kind of feeds into a take I've been thinking about. Like I think there's a very real world where like there's just like I've been preaching the Satu to Indiana move for a minute now because I just think that like the Caitlin and Satu connection would just be so incredibly fun, and I think would play, especially alongside Aaliyah. It just plays to the strengths of Satu so well. But there is a world where everyone just kind of stays. I mean, obviously, Kelsey Mitchell is also a player where we don't really know how locked into Indiana that she is. But along the lines of this being the 1 year when it comes to signing contracts and everything, I don't think it's outside of the realm possibility for a lot of people just to stay put for this 1 year, and then next year becomes the chaos where you have even more expansion teams with a whole lot of money to throw around. Because that's the biggest thing that I'm interested in is Golden State. I feel like they're the team that can really change everything here if they're overpaying for certain players to bring them in for this 1 year and trying to establish something, whether it be an AT&DB, whether it be a NECA. Like, there's certain players that I think the Valkyries might be the key to the movement this year if they just start forcing things and kind of be the first domino. But if the Valkyries are kind of staying put a little bit this year and just kind of waiting it out and seeing into the next CBA, tanking a little bit, they probably won't use the word, but there's some good rookies coming up, Lauren Betts. Like, if that's the case, I could see a whole lot of staying put. And I think, honestly, at that point, that might be a hot take, like, just to see the Kelsey staying. Satu has potential. I think Satu is a very interesting one because I can't get over the one thing that keeps me thinking, like, maybe she stays in Dallas. And this is really the main thing, is that I remember after the Fever played there, and it's stuck in my mind for whatever reason, but she was so complimentary of essentially the motion, frankly, of Caitlin and bringing that in. And now Dallas has sold out of the tickets for this upcoming season with the mark of the first, getting the number 1 pick. Like, the new arena and new facility is on the way. Like, I would be interested in knowing if seeing that, because I remember the quote that stuck in my mind, the reason it stayed was, thank you to all the fans that came out. Hopefully next time it's more Dallas fans, because it was all Caitlin fans, frankly, that were in the building. If that shift is something that intrigues her for 1 year and just accepting the core for this 1 year, playing on the max money, like getting in and then going into next year's free agency as, just a free agent, I'd be intrigued to know the interest in that. Now, there might be none. Like, it might just be over, frankly, for Satu in Dallas, and it might just be sign and trade and let's keep it pushing. But obviously Natasha Howard's already made the claim that she was leaving before the buzzer even sounded in the last game. So I'm interested in seeing just how much movement, and I think I'm looking at the Valkyries to be the team to push the first domino over, whether that be with a trade, whether that be with a just kind of an overpay potentially, or maybe not even overpay, but just bringing one of those bigger names in and kind of disrupting a core from a contending type team like a Connecticut, like a Seattle, in that type of way. If they push over the first domino, I think stuff might get crazy. If not, I think we might wait till next year, and then the Valkyries and the 2 other expansion franchises really let loose with the cap
Very
space.
possible. Yep.
Yeah. So I'm intrigued, but the Kelsey Plum to LA, like, I think everyone is, myself included, has just been thinking about Golden State because of familiar faces, but maybe not. Like, if you want a fresh start, maybe familiar faces isn't where you want to go, frankly.
I think it all comes down to, not just this year, but next year. Like, does Magic and that ownership group, like, do they really mean what they say when they're like, we need to check in a little bit?
Put up or shut up time for
precisely.
Like 100%.
If you're serious about it, we will know this free agency period.
I agree.
Golden State, I think, will get a year. And honestly, you're right. Like, there's a very good chance, like, everyone just stands pat, because even Kurt Miller, I'm sure Kurt Miller's message to Satu is going to be, give it a year and just see.
Yep.
We're going to pay you max money. Take a year. What's the worst that happens?
Yeah.
And, like, granted, we know the worst that happens, but, like,
right.
But I do think that, like, that's going to be the message is,
I just don't know how much urgency there's going to be.
Yeah.
And
how convincing is that argument?
I just don't know how much across the entire WNBA, again, as everyone awaits the new CBA, I don't know how much urgency there is to move this year, even if you still are on that 1 year deal and still entering free agency. I don't know how enticing the new location is today. Obviously, there'll be some movement and some players, but there's a lot of big names out there that have the potential to move. I don't know how much of that movement we'll actually end up seeing.